Speaking at the NFL Combine yesterday, Seahawks general manager John Snyder acknowledged that he's still awaiting word on whether or not Marshawn Lynch will play next season. Lynch still has 1 year remaining on his 4-year, $30 million extension. Beast Mode ran for over 1,300 yards and a career high of 13 touchdowns last season. Stephen A., how important is he to the Seahawks next season?
In my opinion, Marshawn Lynch is everything to that offense. I mean, to some degree, he's the heart and soul of that team. The Legion, the Boom, the boys in the defensive line, whether it's Averill or the rest of them, they feed off of him. And offensively, he is the primary reason for their level of productivity. There's nothing to take away from Russell Wilson here. He can definitely play the game of football, and we applaud his poise, his athleticism, his leadership ability, etc. But the one thing that is undoubtedly true about it is that he wouldn't be who he is if it were not for having Marshawn Lynch to depend on. You need beast mode to be there in order for Russell Wilson to be effective as he has been. And if Marshawn Lynch is not going to be there, the Seattle Seahawks are not going to be the same team.
I really disagree with you, and I think you're being a little too hard on a Russell Wilson who I thought became a very special player last year. Obviously late in that Green Bay game after he was pretty much of a disaster for the first 3/4 of it. He was really, really good. And Stephen A., I think that Russell Wilson, who hasn't exactly been throwing to Peyton Manning's receivers, has been better than a lot of people think. I do not think he's a pure pocket passer because he's not tall enough to be that. But he has turned into everything that I wanted and still hope that Robert Griffin III could turn into. His legs make his arm. He makes plays with his quickness, his elusivity, and still a very powerful arm. But he is a playmaker. And I believe, let's just do the hypothetical. Let's say Marshawn retires. I think around Turbin and Kristen Michael, they can recreate enough of a run game if they add a couple of pieces through the draft, maybe to the receiver and the running back position, that they will be just as good as they were last year. Obviously, they got 3 key pieces in their secondary they got to get completely healthy. But I think they will be just as big a force going forward without Marshawn as they were with Marshawn.
I think you're wrong. Marshawn Lynch and the Seattle Seahawks had the #1 rushing attack in the NFL. Their passing attack was ranked 27th. And last time I checked, they had Percy Harvin and Golden State on the squad before letting them go. Golden State in the offseason and Percy Harvin during the season via a trade to the New York Jets. Russell Wilson has had requisite level of weapons, respectable weapons. It's not to take anything away from him. We know that he's gifted and he's young, but he's not beast mode. Marshawn Lynch is on another level talent-wise, and you can't take away his value and think that, you know what, it's not going to affect the value of Russell Wilson by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that's insane. But remember, Tim Tebow had the #1 rushing attack in Denver because of the read option. Well, so does Russell Wilson. He's a tremendous runner, and he's a huge threat off the read option. Yeah, but it helps when you have Marshawn Lynch to execute it with.
All right, gentlemen, we got about a few minutes left
I agree.
in the show. I want to talk about Kevin Garnett, okay? He's heading back to where his Hall of Fame career started. KG agreed to drop his no-trade clause and was traded by the Nets to the Timberwolves. The move affords Garnett the chance to play out possibly his final NBA season as a member of the team that drafted him out of high school back in 1995. Garnett is Minnesota's career leader in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. Stephen A., your thoughts on KG returning to the Timberwolves?
I thought it was a beautiful gesture on the part of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Certainly it helps to get the expiring contract of Kevin Garnett's $12 million at the end of the season. Clearly this is it for him. He's going to retire at the end of the season. The leadership that he could give to that locker room, to those young players, is definitely going to be something that's incredibly helpful. But this is the greatest star in the history of the franchise who carried this franchise on his back pretty much for 12 years, who did everything, came to work, grabbed his lunch pail, came to work every day, was a consummate professional, dedicated to his craft, conducted himself like a professional at all times, strived to be a winner. This guy epitomizes everything that you want in a professional athlete in terms of his fervor, his tenacity, his willingness to make the necessary sacrifices to win. He's meant everything to that franchise. And for them to bring him back for this kind of gesture, to make sure that he ends where he began, being so appreciated by a franchise he held on his shoulders for so long, I think he's incredibly deserving of it. I'm happy for him, and I'm happy he's going out this way because he deserves to be celebrated by that franchise for all he has meant to the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota community.
I am so with you on this. I want to applaud Kevin Garnett for accepting this deal to go back, quote-unquote, home, or at least where he started. He will do wonders for that fandom there in Minnesota as they continue to rebuild. He will do wonders for that young basketball team, coached by a Flip Saunders, who's still a huge fan and a confidant, obviously, of Kevin's. Kevin can be a coach on the floor, a player coach, if you will, and it's really a nice story. And the story back in Brooklyn, as you know, Stephen A., didn't end so nicely because that king's ransom that they paid for KG and Paul Pierce didn't exactly work out, and I never thought it would. I thought they way overpaid for those two guys.
He's just a consummate professional, man, and you know he's as real as they get. Skip, you don't have relationships with people in the media and stuff like that. I knew him because we have mutual friends, but we never talked much, anything like that. I've always had profound respect for him. Doesn't lie, isn't two-faced, is as real and as authentic as they come, and he's somebody who can coach one day if he wants to. He can be an executive if he wants to. He's inspirational, he's motivational, and he's class personified. And I look forward to the day when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame because he deserves it in terms of his realness, his professionalism, and his productivity. I'm happy for him.
I second all those emotions, and I must say, I'll find the Timberwolves a little more watchable next year with the kids. Rubio's back and Wiggins, obviously, and KG playing whatever minutes he would play a game. They're actually a little bit back on the map for me now.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, Ricky. Rubio tweeted about him returning, and he was actually very excited about it. Gentlemen, as we wrap up the show, I want to thank you. Hopefully we'll see you back in Bristol next week. You have a safe weekend in New York and New York, okay? We are done. We'll see you Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Have a great one, everyone.